Funding for the Maddy Report is made possible by grants from BNSF Railway, moving our economy for 160 years. Harris Ranch Resort, providing Western hospitality and award-winning cuisine. The Wonderful Company, committed to growing a better world. Comcast, connecting people to the moments and experiences that matter most. Producers Dairy, nourishing one life at a time. The Spencer Family, and Fresno State Associated Students Incorporated, students serving students. The Maddy Report is also made possible thanks to contributions from Cook Land Company, E&J Gallo Winery, the Fresno Association of Realtors, and California Manufacturing and Engineering Company. From the Maddy Institute, the Public Policy Institute for the Valley's 4 public universities, this is the Maddy Report with Executive Director of the Maddy Institute, Blake Zante.
Welcome to the Maddy Report. I'm Blake Zante, Executive Director of the Maddy Institute and host of the Maddy Report. Today we'll be looking at proposals to address growing concerns of crime in the Valley, specifically how Proposition 36 plans to decrease the influx of crime. Californians care about increasing crime rates, specifically the rise of theft and distribution of narcotics, but are unsure of what can be done to create change. This is the genesis of Proposition 36, and it will be on the ballot during the upcoming election cycle. We will be examining both the supporting and opposing sides of the measure. To help us break this down on the program, we have Fresno County District Attorney Lisa Smittcamp joining us on the program. District Attorney Smittcamp, thank you for joining us on the Maddy Report today. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me.
Well, we'll dive right in. From your perspective, what is the genesis of Proposition 36? How did we get here?
So the genesis for Prop 36 is twofold. It's the chaos that has been created over the last decade by Prop 47, which passed in 2014, which reduced all possession of drug charges to misdemeanors, as well as any theft under the amount of $950 to a misdemeanor. And the second part is the influx of fentanyl that we have in our nation, particularly in the state of California, because we are so close to the southern border, and all of the scourge that has come with the fentanyl crisis.
So crime rates in Fresno County are high compared to some other places throughout the nation. How is Proposition 36 going to help tackle these issues in Fresno County and in the Valley specifically? And what will it do to help make California safer from your perspective?
I always kind of have to chuckle when people talk about crime rates, because when you're talking specifically about theft and drug possession, I don't believe any of the crime stats, because so much of that type of crime goes unreported today because of Prop 47. So what I look at is, how does your city look? How does your neighborhood look, right? How does it look when you go to your neighboring city that you used to love to go to take a vacation with your family, right? How are the streets of Los Angeles, where you want to take your kids to Disneyland, or Orange County or San Francisco, where those of us that grew up in Fresno, we love to go to the city. Those are the things that I look at when I say, like, how are we doing? And when you look around any city in California, you see chaos that has been created by Prop 47. When you go to the grocery store and you buy eggs that are $7, when you are paying exorbitant amounts of money for simple apparel, things that we buy, shoes, sweatshirts, anything we need for our children, the price of goods has gone sky high because of the rampant theft.
So you referenced Prop 37.
47.
47,
yes.
Excuse me. You referenced all of the rising costs as a result of that rising theft. What specific changes will Prop 36 bring to sort of reform or address those things that were in Prop 47?
So Prop 36, which is on the 2024 ballot, is going to allow prosecutors to charge people who have had 2 convictions for misdemeanor possession of drugs or 2 convictions for theft crimes of items under $950 with a felony on their 3rd time through. So it is not a return to how things used to be before Prop 47, because before Prop 47, when you had 1 conviction for a misdemeanor petty theft, we could then charge you with a felony. And at that time, before Prop 47, all hard drugs, cocaine, methamphetamine, heroin, they were all felonies. Now, they were wobblers, meaning they could be reduced to a misdemeanor, but they were all usually charged as felony possession of a controlled substance. And so this really is a sort of a middle-of-the-road approach to returning accountability and responsibility to people who are stealing and who are possessing and using drugs, so that we give them a couple of chances to go through the court system with misdemeanors, and then the third time through on both theft and possession of hard drugs, they will be charged with felonies. The penalties that attach to felonies are a little bit more serious, and on the drug charges, if they come through with a third time case, they will be mandated to treatment, and with also, be on felony probation once they are convicted or plead guilty to those felonies. And with regard to the theft, it also will increase supervision for them when they're on probation, taking them off like a bench probation and bringing up to the level of being supervised by a probation officer on felony probation.
And so you had mentioned, the drug aspect of, Prop 36 and what it does. Talk a little bit more about that. Tell us a little bit more about what that will do. There's sort of two components the way I see it. There's addressing the theft issues and then the drug issues, which are certainly interrelated in many cases. But talk a little bit about that and what else will it do to sort of address those growing concerns like fentanyl addiction and things that are really impacting the community here in the Valley.
Okay, so in addition to being able to increase the penalty from misdemeanors to felonies on the third time arrest after 2 successful convictions for theft and drugs, Prop 36 will also make the penalties for fentanyl dealers stronger. They will be more serious than they are right now, which right now they're very weak, because even though fentanyl is such a poisonous drug and the fatality rates are so much higher with the use of fentanyl than they are other drugs, the penalties are still the same for sales, trafficking, et cetera, et cetera. So what Prop 36 does is it provides stronger penalties for fentanyl possession, for fentanyl sales for people who are trafficking, as well as people who are suffering. If they suffer 2 misdemeanor convictions for fentanyl possession, then once again, just like all the other hard drugs, we would be able to charge them as a felony the third time through. And so that's really very important. It will also allow us statutorily to prosecute some drug sellers as murderers if they are properly given a warning the first time that they sell this very dangerous poison, and they will be given a warning much like we do in DUI cases to say, hey, you're being convicted of this crime today. The sale of fentanyl is dangerous, inherently dangerous to human life, and if you sell it again and someone dies, you could be charged with murder.
Thank you. Up next, we'll talk about some of the support that Proposition 36 has garnered ahead of the upcoming election. This is the Maddy Report. Welcome back to the Maddy Report. We will now examine the arguments in favor of Prop 36 amid the upcoming election and some of the support that it's garnered. Since its introduction, Prop 36 has received substantial backing from major corporations and businesses. They believe that Prop 36 is a step in the right direction to reduce crime across the state. So, District Attorney Smittcamp, how will it exactly help businesses? You sort of referenced this in the previous segment, but why have businesses and why have DAs throughout the state sort of come behind Prop 36? What is it? What's generating that support?
Well, I think DAs and police officers and sheriffs have been frustrated for many years because we were able to see on the inside really what was going on and seeing some of the repeat offenders coming through. But it took a substantial number of years for it really to hit the pocketbooks of the average person living in Fresno or living in the state of California. And I think now we've seen over the last 4 or 5 years, businesses are closing. And the repeat costs that is happening to small business owners, whether it be vandalism from broken windows, or what retailers call shrink in their stores is what we call theft in our world, right? So it happens at big stores, it happens at box stores and grocery stores and clothing stores and hardware stores, and I think people are tired, right? The shop owners are tired, the convenience store owners are tired. People are tired of having their cars broken into. They're tired of having their homes broken into. They're tired of having to pay exorbitant amounts of money for common goods because the stores are trying to just keep the doors open and the lights on. And so it's not just the vandalism that comes with destroying the property that it takes to get in to steal things, but it's also just the fact that it's rampant. You can go to any store and watch it happen. If you shop retail, you will see it happen. I've seen it happen, and I don't shop retail very often simply because I'm just really busy and I don't get out a lot. I do a lot of online shopping, but I've been to stores where they just sell, homewares, or retail stores where they sell shoes and clothing, and people are just walking out, and that's in the nice area of town. So it happens everywhere, and store managers and store clerks, everyone's tired of it. So it's time. Prop 36 is a very reasonable step back to having more accountability and responsibility in the criminal justice system. And I think that we've been sending a really bad message to people who are, on the brink of, hey, do I want to do this? Well, I'm not going to really get in trouble, so maybe I'm going to steal today. Some people are straight thugs. Some people are just straight thieves, and they just walk into stores and take things, and then other people do it to feed their addiction. So I think that there's a definite crossover between people who are addicted and people who steal, and hopefully for the people who are stealing because of their addiction, the fact that now with 2 misdemeanor convictions for possession of drugs, even if they're never caught stealing anything, they'll be mandated to treatment on the 3rd time. And I've been in this system for a really long time, and I've dealt with a lot of people who are addicted, and a lot of the times they say the criminal justice system is what helped me get clean, and that's our hope with Prop 36.
So, it's very interesting because, you spoke to that effect on the big box stores, and we see, I think, the viral clips, sometimes on social media of these incidences that are occurring, these mass thefts. But what does that tell, these big box stores and even small retailers as well, small stores, are experiencing the damage from this, but they're contributing financially to support Prop 36. They're losing a lot of money from these thefts, but what does that tell the average Californian? Are the stakes, that high for a lot of these retailers and businesses that they're willing to, put up the financial and political support to be able to get behind the measure? I mean, what does that sort of tell the average consumer in California?
Well, there's been a lot of wranglings up in Sacramento about, who's going to help fund this and who's not, and some people committed and then withdrew because of political pressures. But without getting into that, I think people, when you're running a big corporation, it comes down to the numbers. And the people that we're talking to in these corporations, they have had to increase their security budgets in these stores. And the reason that they're able to increase their security budgets for every single store that they have is because they're raising the prices of the goods they're selling. And so what they're doing is they're looking at Prop 36 as an investment. Because just like with everything else, there is a small percent of people that commit a large percentage of the crime. So really, this proposition is to address those people. Prop 36 is about repeat offenders, about people who are not stopping the first or second time they're caught.
And last question, I mean, from your perspective, you've been very outspoken about this measure, and so that's why I wanted to have you on the program. But, law enforcement officials and prosecutors up and down the state are getting behind this measure as well, in addition to you. What does that tell the general public? I mean, you've sort of talked about the tools that it will give law enforcement officials and prosecutors, moving forward if it passes. But what does it sort of tell the general public that, folks from the law enforcement community are getting behind this so vocally in such a strong way?
I think it tells people in the community that we are just as frustrated as they are, and that it's really, I think, time for people to understand that it's not the fault of the police or the sheriff's or the DA's office. The law has changed so drastically in the state of California that that literally all of the tools have been taken out of the toolbox for law enforcement, whether that's boots on the ground law enforcement or it's the prosecutors in the court, or even, the judges who are also part of the justice system. There's not a lot under the law that can be done, and especially with the overcrowding issues in the jail. And it's a very complicated, sort of long story. And most people who aren't involved in law enforcement or aren't involved in the criminal justice system, they simply just don't understand and they scratch their heads. But I think people need to really be cautious and really be intentional about who they vote for. Who are the people that they are sending to Sacramento?
Great. Well, District Attorney Smittcamp, thank you so much for being on the program today.
Thank you.
Really appreciate it. Up next, we'll analyze the opposing side of Proposition 36. This is the Maddy Report. Welcome back to the Maddy Report. We'll now dive into the fiscal effects and discuss some of the opposition to Proposition 36. Here with us to help us dissect this is Juan Esparza Loera, opinion editor of the Fresno Bee and former editor of Vida and El Valle. Juan, thank you for joining us on the Maddy Report today. Really appreciate it.
Well, thank you for inviting me here to talk about Prop 36, and I'm ready for your questions,
Great.
Hopefully.
Awesome, great. Well, we'll go ahead and jump right in. So the California McClatchy Editorial Board recently published an editorial titled Prop 36 Taps into California Voter Anger Over Crime, but is it a terrible idea? Can you share with us why, publications like the Sacramento Bee, the California McClatchy Editorial Board, has raised concerns about the measure?
Sure. The McClatchy opinion team, of which I'm a member of at the Fresno Bee, decided to endorse a no vote on Proposition 36 for various reasons, but mainly because we believe that this is a terrible way to address retail theft and drug abuse issues that have been in the news recently. But first, let me talk about the overcrowding of state prisons, which currently stands at 90,000 at a annual cost of $130,000 per prisoner. So that's going to be an impact. And the measure does not offer a way to cut down on recidivism, which is currently at 40%, and we believe it's going to get worse because when you have more of a prison population, and if previous efforts by the prison system to cut down on that has not worked, how can you expect that to drive that down? Now, Prop 47, which this measure attempts to address or fix or plug up some loopholes, was the state's response to court orders to cut down on the state's prison population. And so in addition to the state prisons, county jails are also going to have to expect an increase. Currently, the inmate population of county jails throughout the state is at 250,000 right now. So, but secondly, the measure does not provide funding for the programs it proposes to put in place. So in essence, this will be a voter mandated, unfunded program. And then third, if voters in March approved Proposition 1, which authorizes more than $6 billion in bonds to build mental health treatment facilities for those with mental health and substance abuse, and provides housing for the homeless. Additionally, the state legislature, they were late, so was the governor. They passed several bills that addressed organized retail theft. So our question is, why don't we let that measure and those laws make an impact? See if they solve the problem that we've had.
Maybe if you could expand on a couple, what are maybe the top negative effects that you foresee from Prop 36? You sort of hinted at that in your previous answer, but what do you see as the pervasive challenges with Prop 36?
One item is, although it's left at the discretion of a judge to determine whether if you go into a store and you walk out with a $2 candy bar, and it's your third offense. Your previous two were felonies, so does that become a third felony and a third strike, and so it means more jail time for you? So it doesn't quite address that. I don't think you'll get to that point, but if it's $2, then how about a $250 pair of slacks or a suit, when do you figure out what makes a misdemeanor into a felony and then incurs, prison time? The other thing is the courts are going to be busy. They're going to have more cases. The judges are going to be having more cases. There's no money earmarked for that. And even if a judge, maybe the prosecutor decide that the best solution is treatment, there's no guarantee that there will be an open bed at a treatment facility for what we would expect to be a high number of criminals that would prefer to use that.
Thank you. We'll be right back after this break. This is the Maddy Report. As the support for Proposition 36 continues to mount ahead of the election, many legislative leaders and others have expressed their opposing views, including Governor Newsom to Prop 36. So we're here with Juan Esparza Loera, an opinion editor of the Fresno Bee, talking about Prop 36. Juan, how would the passage of Prop 36 impact the San Joaquin Valley? I think we hear a lot about the statewide implications, yes, but what about the implications here for our region in the Valley?
Now here in Fresno, like I mentioned, it's like the local district attorney will have to figure out what cases she's going to be able to handle. Obviously, there's going to be an increase, and so the courts are going to have to figure out, okay, how are we going to be able to take care of all of this? At the same time, they're not going to be getting funding from the state. And these are tough budget times. So again, it's like I mentioned, this would be a voter mandated program with no money attached to it.
Earlier, before the break, you had referenced let the legislature, sort of do its job and let's see how these measures play out. Almost 10 years ago, or I believe 10 years ago, Prop 47 passed. I guess, a lot of proponents are arguing that it will undo some of the effects of Prop 47. But will we be back in another 10 years, in your view, to scale back Prop 36? Sort of what are your, are we going to be back here, and is it going to be a constant push and pull?
I think so. And the public is going to be the arbitrator as to, okay, did we go too far or do we not go far enough? Now, the first month after Prop 47 went into effect, the prison population dropped by 10,000. So that helped the state save money, and of course they funneled some of that money to the counties to help with treatment facilities. But it also led to overcrowding of local jails. So it's like, the crime is really a big issue. It's how many, I don't know myself whether there's we can prove that homeless are committing a lot of the crimes, whether it's a drug crime or a retail theft crime. But that's another issue. That's a completely different issue, but I know that this Prop 36 tries to address the homeless, and I don't think it quite does that.
Interesting. Well, thank you so much, Juan, for being on the Maddy Report.
No problem.
Really
Thank
appreciate
you.
your time. Thank you for tuning into the Maddy Report. To learn more about the Maddy Institute, visit maddyinstitute.com. We'll see you next week. The views expressed in the Maddy Report are those of the individuals participating in the program and do not necessarily reflect the views of the Maddy Institute. If you'd like to share your thoughts about today's episode of the Maddy Report, please visit our website at maddyinstitute.com.